15th August 1947. India gained independence from British colonial rule. 2 centuries of British rule had left the Indian economy in shambles. India's GDP was a mere 2.7 lakh crore, accounting for a paltry 3% of the world's total GDP. To get perspective on the effect of the British colonial rule in India, let's look at some stats. India accounted for 25% of the world's industrial output in 1750, declining to 2% of the world's industrial output in 1900. Before the British, Mughal India had a higher percentage of its population, about 15%, living in urban centers, than British India did in the 19th century. Under British rule, a number of India's native manufacturing industries shrank. The economic policies of the British caused a severe decline in the handicrafts and handloom sectors. Both sectors India performed quite well in prior to the British rule. Production of food crops declined. There was mass impoverishment and destitution of farmers, and numerous famines. There was a significant transfer of capital from India to England. When India gained independence, the world was at the beginning of a Cold War, and the entire world was divided into 2 camps on the basis of their economic policy. And India had 2 options in terms of the economic policy route it would take. Either economic policy route it would take would mean that it was in one superpower's camp and another superpower's opposition. One was the United States with its capitalism, and the other was the Soviet Union and their policy of communism. And as such, India did not want to take the capitalist route, as its industries were in shambles and could not take the competition that a free market would bring with it. India also did not want to take the communism approach, as that would mean imposing strict control over its citizens, which, after the British rule, the Indian people were tired of. So, India ended up taking the socialism approach, though still heavily influenced by Soviet Union's policies. At this point, we should take a moment here to define what socialism is, before we delve into how India implemented it. Socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production. It includes the political theories and movements associated with such systems. Social ownership can be public, collective, cooperative, or of equity. So post-independence, in the year 1950, India formed an institution called the Planning Commission, which developed, executed, and monitored 5-year plans for the development of the Indian economy. 5-year plans are centralized and integrated national economic programs. This policy was inspired by the Soviet Union 5-year plans. Joseph Stalin implemented the first 5-year plan in the Soviet Union in 1928. Most communist states and several capitalist countries subsequently have adopted them. China continues to use 5-year plans today. India launched its first 5-year plan in 1951, immediately after independence, under the socialist influence of India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. From 1951 to 1991, for 4 decades, India implemented 5-year plans focusing its development efforts in various areas such as development of the primary sector, industrialization, agriculture, employment, poverty alleviation, economic liberalization, etc. So basically, in order to regulate the growth of the private sector, the Indian government implemented a system called License Raj. It was a system of licenses, regulations, and accompanying red tape between 1947 and 1990. I mean, talk about regulating something. Under the License Raj, licenses were required for everything. For starting new companies, for producing new products, or expanding production capacities. Businesses even had to take government approval for laying off workers and for shutting down, for crying out loud. Up to 80 government agencies had to be satisfied before private companies could produce anything. And in order to protect local businesses, import tariffs were raised. In 1985, India had the highest import tariffs in the world. This system led to corruption and drained India's forex reserves. India started having balance of payment problems in 1985, and by the end of 1990, the state of India was in a serious economic crisis. The government was close to default on various loans. Its central bank had refused new credit, and foreign exchange reserves had reduced to the point that India could barely finance 2 weeks' worth of imports. The collapse of the Chandrasekhar government in the midst of the crisis and the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi led to the election of a new Congress government led by P.V. Narasimha Rao. He selected Dr. Manmohan Singh to be finance minister and gave him complete support in doing whatever he thought was necessary to solve the crisis. Dr. Manmohan Singh took various steps to liberalize the Indian economy. He abolished the license Raj by removing licensing restrictions for all but 18 industries. Greater FDI was now allowed in the Indian economy, allowing foreign companies to bring modern technology and industrial development. Dr. Singh also dismantled public monopolies by floating shares of public sector companies and limiting public sector growth to essential infrastructure, goods and services, mineral exploration, and defense manufacturing. From 1992 to 2005, foreign investment in India increased 316%, and India's GDP grew from $266 billion in 1991 to $2.3 trillion in 2018. Thus, ending an era of socialism in India and beginning an era of a liberal economy. Thank you. That was it from us on Socialism in India. If you liked the video, please do like, share and subscribe. Many such interesting videos coming soon. Have a good day.